name's Olivia Johnston. I'm with the Western Weekly, and today I'm here with the Honourable Jane Esselment of Nunavut. Hi. So my first question for you today, Jane, is in your opening speech, you made a reference to Senate reform, implying that's unnecessary. Can you expand on this stance and how this stance has potentially affected your interprovincial relationships and negotiations?
Yeah, so as Nunavut, we have a lot of needs that we feel are necessary, and even across the country, there are a lot of issues with affordable housing, access to clean water. A lot of basic needs are not being met. Senate reform for Nunavut and the other territories, it's a provincial and federal vote, so the territories actually do not have a say or do not have a valid vote when it comes to anything to do with the Senate or the Constitution. So Nunavut felt like it was kind of unnecessary to include it in the First Minister's agenda when we actually have no say and there are more important things going on.
Okay, interesting. So considering this awkward position Nunavut is in and the Northern Territories are in regards to the economy and not having access to essential resources and needs, do you believe that healthcare fits into this? You mentioned wanting to reform the healthcare system.
Yeah, so we definitely feel like healthcare is a big issue for us. Mental health and addiction is a very important issue when we have so many issues relating to that. There are a lot of issues surrounding addictions and problems with mental health due to colonization and the ongoing effects of residential schools and everything like that. So we felt that creating more affordable and accessible healthcare in such a rural territory with our population so dispersed, making sure that we have access and good healthcare to provide to the people living in Nunavut, it's a very important topic for us.
So it seems that the government of Nunavut has a lot of goals on things they need to improve, has a lot of areas that they would like to be spending their money in. Do you believe that Nunavut is actually in a position financially to be able to be providing these kinds of services?
So the interesting thing is that as a territory, we get different funding than the provinces due to our lack of ability to gain tax money. So provinces, especially Ontario and Quebec, use tax money to help pay for their healthcare systems and everything like that. For us, the federal government provides a lot of the funding. Our main focus in Nunavut is making sure that all of the people that live in our territory get their basic and human rights and needs met before we focus on any extras.
So is it safe for us to assume that you guys don't believe that the federal government has your best interests in mind when it comes to Senate reform, when it comes to their top priorities today?
Yeah, one interesting comment that was made when the Prime Minister made his speech was about the fact that Indigenous affairs will be talked about throughout the entire conference. I feel like that was a misunderstanding from my opening statement. I wanted to highlight the fact that clean water, access to food, is not just an Indigenous issue. It's an issue that happens across the country, and it needs to be dealt with on a bigger scale than just the Indigenous affairs.
And you don't believe that Senate reform could play into this at all? Considering we could have more Indigenous people in the Senate, we could have more representation.
Yeah, I feel like Senate reform is a constitutional thing. It is, but because it doesn't have anything to do with us, the representation we need does not come from the Senate. It needs to come from other areas. So I feel like we need to focus on the basic needs of Canadians before we focus on changing unconstitutional.
Okay, so I think that obviously the territories deal with a lot of secular issues. All of them have a very high Indigenous population, all of them are very isolated. In the opening ceremony, you and Yukon outlined many of the state's capabilities for your governments in negotiation to form a unified front together.
Yeah, so us with the Yukon and with the First Nations Assembly have been working very closely together and planning uniform decisions on things so that we have support. Because one thing that has been noticed, especially in the first committee meeting, there's a lot of talk about provinces, and territories are rarely mentioned in that sentence as well. So our hope is that we can work as a collective front to get the change that we need and have the discussions that the federal government and other provinces don't want to have.
As more isolated territories that aren't directly playing into Canadian politics all the time, you mentioned that in your opening statement you wanted better access to jobs, you want more jobs. Where are these jobs coming from? Where is this going to happen in a practical sense?
get support from the federal government for healthcare and creating more healthcare centers and mental health centers. That would create jobs, and we also want to tie that into the immigrants coming in and tied into immigration and providing them with a place to live so that they can create jobs. It's not about making jobs for people in Nunavut, it's about finding a way to attract people to come to our territory.
All right. Well, those are all the questions I have for Jade today. It's been a crazy morning already. I'm looking forward to talking to you again soon.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.